Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and good evening, depending where you're connecting from today. You're in the right place. We're going to be talking about lowering LCOE with bifacial PV in Italy. However, we are going to give an extra 2 minutes to people who are joining us. So we're allowing 2 more minutes for people to join the room. And what I would like to ask you in the meanwhile, in these 2 minutes, is that you use the chat, which is on your right-hand side, and you introduce yourself, your company, where you're joining from today. And just to introduce myself, I am Belén Gallego. I'm from ATA Insights of the organizers. I'm going to be your moderator today, and I'm joining from Madrid, from my home. And literally, we will begin in 1 minute. Thank you very much. Well, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I can see there is a lot of interest in the Italian market from many different places. There's, of course, people in Italy, but also all over Europe. And I say good evening in case there is someone connecting from Asia. We are going to begin this online session about lowering levelized cost of electricity with bifacial PV in Italy, and to talk about bifacial PV, how it works, how the projects are designed and how are they a good fit for Italy, what to take into consideration. We have 3 experts with us today who are going to talk about this with us, and I'd like to ask them to introduce themselves so that you can get to know them better if you don't already. So Francesco, can I ask you to unmute your microphone, please, and introduce yourself briefly to our audience?
Sure. Thanks, Belen. I'm Francesco Emolo, and I'm country manager of Longi for Italy.
Thank you very much, Francesco. I'd like to also invite Andrea Ferrato to introduce himself. He's one of my colleagues on the engineering arm of ATA. Go ahead, Andrea.
Hi, Belen. Hi, everyone. So it's a pleasure being here with Emilio and Francesco today. I'm Andrea Ferrato, and I've been working in solar for 9 years. I've got experience as technical advisor and asset manager in the past, and now I'm country manager at ATA Renewables for Italy and North European countries.
Excellent. And last but most certainly not least, I'd like to invite Emilio to introduce himself as well to the audience. Please, Emilio, can you unmute your microphone so we can hear you? Thank you.
Good morning, Belen and everybody. My name is Emilio Marconel. I am COO of Powertis. I've been in the industry for almost, actually more than 20 years now. And I've been doing mainly development, consultancy, due diligence. I've been involved in M&A services in Europe, Africa, Asia, Americas, and special focus in Latin.
Incredible, what 20 years that you've worked absolutely everywhere. So thank you very much, Emilio. So as you can see, you have the point of view of the manufacturing of the panels, you have the point of view of more of the technical, independent technical advisor, and also you have the point of view of the developer. So you're going to be able to really understand, this topic of bifacials from many different perspectives. So what I'd like to ask is my colleague on the technical command, Valeria, to stop sharing the screen now so that I can ask our first speaker for the day, Francesco, to open your presentation and share it, selecting the presentation. And whilst Francesco prepares and unmutes his microphone, etc., I just have a few directions for you guys. Okay, so several things. This session is going to be 3 presentations from Francesco, from Andrea, and from Emilio, followed by some time for questions. We'll do as many as we can. We'll see how many we actually have time for. And if you send the questions to the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of the screen. Don't send them through the chat, because in the chat they get lost on all the chat that are in the introductions, and then send them through the Q&A box so that we can manage them more appropriately. So that's number one. Number two, I want to remind you that we're recording this session and that we will send you a link to the materials, which are the recordings, so you can watch it again, perhaps send it to a colleague who hasn't watched it, and also you can take a look at the detail of the presentations, because our presenters usually send them to us, and usually also the presenters put their email address in the presentation, so you can contact them thereafter. So Francesco, let me see if I can take your mute. No, I can't. You have to take it yourself. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So I can see your presentation perfectly. I can hear you. So go ahead with your presentation. Thank you very much.
So hi everybody. I will give you, the perspective of module producer, which is Longi Solar. As module manufacturer, our way to we are 20 years old manufacturer with more than 40,000 people, around 5 billion revenues in 2009. Just to give you a very, very brief presentation of ourselves. The reason why I'm talking here today is because our company, it's wafer and module manufacturer, which is leader in the bifacial technology. We deliver worldwide more than 5 gigawatts of bifacial glass all over the world. This is what we are doing now for the future. We are developing a brand new product, which is IMO 5, with the power output that will arrive to 540 watt peak. Here you have the main parameters. As you can see, as you can imagine, the efficiency would be very high. We passed 21%. The main introduction we have done with this product, together with other manufacturers, to be honest, because we share our technologies to many others, many other manufacturers that are joining us with the decision to go for the M10 wafer, which is 182 millimeters, to do the standard design. The standardization of this will help somehow also to lower the LCOE, because of course the manufacturers that are going to join us will save cost in terms of module production. Let's give just a brief, look of what we are doing in terms of optimization of our modules. We have made this fully compatible with all the inverters that are now in the market. This means that also, as you can see here in the slide, we are working a little below 15 ampere. Also, when we have a bifacial gain, which is around 15%, which is already quite high. Andrea, I know that it will explain this more in detail later, so I don't go too much on the topic. And the other important things that we have optimized the module size to perfectly match with the trackers that we have now available on the market. All this, when we turn this into numbers, because here anyway in the end we are talking about numbers, we just make an investigation, and as you can see with the other technology, including our technology, 166, 445 that we still have in the market. If we compare, different parameters, including module efficiency, VOC, EMP, we have the BOS costs going down quite a lot with our technology. If we compare our bifacial, which is the IMO 572C that you see here, or the IMO 566, which is the other model that arrived to power output 495, as you can see, if we compare to the mainstream product that we have in the market, let me just give you the idea with the 495, which at the moment is very popular with the cell dimension of 200. We have a minus 1.34% cents, sorry, per watt less cost. This means that, I mean, I don't have to explain to you what this means of cost when we go on the megawatt side, you know. Reliability. This is the other important topic that we need to talk about. Why we have we go to glass-glass bifacial. We have largely tested our modules worldwide, together with many labs, as you can see over here, and together with many of our customers. And these are simply reported results of what we have in terms of gain, bifacial gain. We go from 10% sand Arabia to 20% of white coating that we have in China. We have a large number of installation and a large number of tests available about the reliability of our bifacial. So as we said, as also Belen said at the beginning of the presentation, just feel free to ask all the information you need about our products and about our installation. Last but not least, we have produced the doped gallium technology on all our modules starting from last month. The gallium doped technology reduced significantly the degradation of the modules, and we have introduced this on both monofacial and bifacial. Also on this, we tested largely before the introduction into our production line, which I want to remember you, we are talking about 30 gigawatts production at the moment. We are the larger module manufacturer worldwide. And we have tested this technology on a very large base with the important numbers of tests. And we are going to commercialize this project from now, which have really low degradation if you compare it to boron doped technologies. That's it. I mean, I know that my colleagues will go more on the details. From our side, we can only, let's say, optimize our products to be, you know, reliable and compatible with all the technology that we have available at the moment, including trackers and structures. Maybe just last information, we have decided to go to glass-glass because of many reasons. One of the most important anyway is that we have the resistance on the trackers that is better, and we don't need to cover like transparent bedsheet modules, for example, the backside to have a resistance which is comparable with the standard modules. So it's also more reliable for the time being because we don't create shadow on in the back, so we don't have a problem of hot spot that can come out in the future. To be honest, I'm ignoring the question because I suppose answer to go together with the other panelists at the end of the discussion, Belen. Am I right? Okay. Now you have to unmute your microphone.
You are right. You are right.
Okay.
I thought you can see me.
Okay.
Okay. So are you done or are you still continuing?
No. I'm done.
Okay.
I don't want
Perfect.
to go too long. I want to leave some space to the question because I suppose there would be many questions.
Yeah, there are some questions already there for you. You can answer by text, or you can wait until the end of the session. Okay. Next up is Andrea. Andrea, same for you. Open your document and share it, and your microphone. And yes, we have two questions already. They are very specific to your presentation, so perhaps you can answer them, and for sure we'll get more towards the end. Okay, and Andrea, go for it.
Great. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen perfectly. Go for it.
Okay, again, thanks, Belen, for the introduction. So today we'll discuss about some insights regarding the design of bifacial projects and the risks involved during the bankability. So let me briefly talk about ATA Renewables. We are an independent advisory firm working in renewables since 2005. We have a total experience that reaches 80 gigawatts, and more than 500 projects are already financed and successfully constructed. So it's pretty clear in the industry what is bifacial now, because this technology is around by at least 4 years for a large-scale project. I would like to talk about today why should we consider these in Italy too. So first of all, bifacial is becoming mainstream with the gigawatts of installer project worldwide. So the outlook of this technology looks huge. The main drivers so far have been big tender processes where it is super important being competitive. Also in the last 2 years, we have seen a massive increase in innovation, both from modules, as we have just seen with Francesco's presentation, but also from the PV tracker system side. So in this context, first part of the presentation will be focused on the technical consideration about the LCOE. Then I will briefly talk about the albedo measurement, which is one of the main concerns when we have to see the bankability. So there are several parameters that influence the resulting LCOE, but now we just see 3 important factors for, at least for Italy: land cost, the module distance, and the ground albedo. In Italy, land cost is historically quite high and also quite volatile. But to have a full bifacial gain from the module, we need more distance between rows. So this is obviously a kind of risk in terms of land use and higher costs. On the other hand, less distance between rows helps having higher peak power. So finding the optimal geotechnical configuration is a key optimization task. Finally, since the ground albedo is very site specific, having an accurate estimation of these is crucial to determine the actual LCOE. So a takeaway from here is that a strategic and site-specific analysis is very important and recommended. In ATA, we help doing that, assessing design and the economic parameters for our clients. But another very important point, in my opinion, is that the clear game changer for the Italian market will be the cost reduction of the modules. So the trend so far says that the price gap between mono and bifacial is constantly decreasing and will be at some point close to zero. So this, in my opinion, will compensate the higher capex due to the acquisition and will finally trigger this technology also for the Italian market. So let me now show you some example of how we can optimize the LCOE. So the ground coverage ratio, GCR, represents the distance we just talked about between trackers. So the higher is the GCR, the less is the land needed for a given array. However, there is a room to optimize this ratio, and this is provided by the tracker system. So the length of the tracker can be important. Indeed, longer trackers can increase the GCR in the north-south direction. This is because we have less bearing poles and therefore less spaces between modules in the north and south dimension. So this is an option that could be considered. Also, the second point, the selection of the DC cabling arrangement is very important for the LCOE. I have an example here. So these two figures show two PV power blocks with same peak power and the same GCR, but two different concept designs. On the left, we have underground DC cables using string boxes. On the right, we have overground solution. So in this case, we have DC harnesses between trackers and DC buses. So in ATA, we have estimated that in terms of CapEx, the solution with the solution on the right, we can obtain a reduction in the order of 20–25% only regarding the DC system cabling costs. So we have a cost of $0.024 per watt with the underground cablings, and we can get something around $0.018 per watt. So this is something that should be considered in a pre-engineering phase. The last aspect is the PV tracker configuration. So usually we can have one module per trait per 90 modules in row, or we can get two module per trait in 45 modules, so shorter tracker. In case of irregular and hilly sites, and we know that in Italy it's something that we can normally see, shorter trackers allow to better fulfill the available land, getting higher power. So in the right figure, we have a solution with shorter tracker. As you can see, it's not that easy to see, but it is. We can have a higher peak power. On the other end, it's completely the opposite in case we have a completely flat solution. So when we have flat terrain, the longer is a tracker, the more power we can get. This is because there is a distance due to the torque tube gap in the two module per trait solution. So there is a consumption of land because of this gap. So we've seen that there are so many parameters to be considered at pre-planning and or pre-engineering phases. That's why we do recommend, again, scenario analysis as a powerful tool to create a cost-effective concept design. So the last part of this presentation, I will be focused on the importance of estimating the albedo. So this aspect is strategic for both bankability and production consideration. So the albedo is defined as the ratio between the reflected irradiance and the GHI, so the global horizontal irradiation. However, measuring it is not that simple. It's not a simple process at all. And this is because the albedo has seasonal and interannual variabilities. So for the estimation of the albedo TNY, there are several factors to be taken into account in the calculation. There are ideally three different ways to do that. So we can do a terrestrial we can have terrestrial databases with meteor station. So these databases are not so recommended because results are not well representative. We can get satellite data. They've been around lots of solar databases which provide reliable data, but the accuracy can be in some cases quite high for the bankability and also for the yield estimation. And finally, we could do on-site measurement with albedo meters. This is highly representative and has low uncertainties levels. However, normally it requires long-term campaign, and normally it's 1 year of data to be get on site. So in ATA, we had the idea to match the second and the third options. And we obtained the short-term measurement campaigns by the correlation with the satellite data. The method is divided in 4 steps. So the first 2 steps are honestly pretty standard. So are just the measurement phase. So with the albedo meter on site, we can put 1 or more albedo meter depending on the size of the plant. And then we have to do the second phase, is data processing, which is just the data cleaning from outlined value. So nothing new so far. But the core of this method is data correction. Data correction from not representative effect. So for example, if we went on site in August, but in July we had an unusual rainy month, we know that that measurement was affected by no representative factor, which in this case is the precipitation, but we have lots of factors that can be involved. So that's why understanding unusual effect and correct them from the measurement is very important for the calculation of the albedo. Then we have the last step, which is the correlation with the long-term solar databases. There are lots around, and we use lots of these database available. So what we had to do, we had to validate this method. Let's see now how we did that. So the validation of this method was done in 2019, measuring in a real PV project in Spain, close to Sevilla. We measured the albedo once per month. Then we started looking at several factors. We checked the 15 satellite databases. Then we use different extrapolation method. And finally, we use also different correction methods. So we obtained something like 70 different methods. We tested them with the aim to identify the one that gave us the best result. But what is the best result? For best result, I mean the one that provides same albedo TMY, either if we perform the test in January or if we go on site, for example, in August. So this is how we got the ATA method that gives the albedo TMY with the short test campaign, but also with the low uncertainties. We calculate a standard deviation of 1.39%. So this figure, this is the last slide for today's. And this figure shows some sites where we already performed the albedo. They are around 60 PV projects. And we've also prepared the white paper on this topic. This is available. This is the link where you can easily download it. But anyway, there are also my contact. Feel free to reach me out if you have any question. So that's all, Belen, from my side. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I'm going to take this away. Oh, perfect. You've done it. Just to allow Emilio to share his screen. And just to remind everyone, please keep sending your questions. The first questions, the first batch was already answered by Francesco. And as soon as Emilio is done, then we will take some more. But just wanted to make sure that you guys know to send them. Emilio, if you can put that on a large screen, please. Perfect. And remember to take your mute of your microphone so we can hear you. It's at the top, well, I think on the left-hand side. Let me see if I can do it. I might be able to do it. No. No, hang on. We can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself again? Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Okay? Okay,
yes,
fantastic.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Belen. Good. I'm going to talk about how to reduce the LCOE from the developer's point of view. So first, I would like to talk briefly about PowerTis, which is the company I'm working for. That's correct. So PowerTis is a utility scale developer and an investment platform, which is part of Soltec Power Holdings. Our main markets are Brazil, Spain, and Italy. We develop PV projects up to investment ready status, meaning that we'll get all the licenses, EPC negotiated with key components secured, PPA and finance in place. We currently have a pipeline of 6 gigawatts. Out of those, 1 with PPA. As I mentioned, we are part of the Soltec group. And Soltec is a leading tracker manufacturer established in 2004. It has a strong presence, international presence, and agreements with top-tier companies such as Enel, Total, EDF, and ISNG, etc. Soltec has a track record of 8.6 gigawatts and a backlog of 2.1 and 1,300 employees worldwide. It's currently the market leader in Mexico and Brazil, and second position in Spain, and third worldwide. Something which is relevant for this presentation is that in 2018, Soltec created Vitec, which is the bifacial tracker evaluation center. It's based in Northern California, and it's a research facility which collaborates with the main module manufacturers, among them Elongi, and other entities such as Enrail and the RETS and other major EPC and consulting firms like Black & Veatch. And the mission of Vitec is to assess factors affecting bifacial gain and to create models predicting power generation in any bifacial plant. That's why it's relevant, because we will be getting some of the results. Actually, Soltec has released several white papers on this research and studies, which is very easy to find. And Soltec white papers, if you Google that, you will be able to find all of them. So that's mainly the points that we're going to discuss today. A bit extensive. So LCOE. LCOE stands for levelized cost of energy. If you Google that, you can see many formulas, some very complex, some very simple. The concept in itself is very simple. It's just the average cost of energy throughout the lifetime of the project. So you see in the formula, which is working with a net present value, because it's to discount the amounts to today's value. So it's since we are talking about 25, 30, whatever the years we are considering for the life of the project. So here's how are we going to improve LCOE? So it's either, I mean, this is a division. So it's either we reduce the numerator, which is the cost, or we increase the generation, which is the denominator. Reducing the cost is possible. We are talking about bifacial systems, because since we are generating more energy, it's either, I mean, we can generate more energy, or we can keep maintain the energy and then reduce the DC part, which it will end up in reducing cost. But however, it's normally better and more interesting to increase generation, and that's what we will be discussing today. So this roughly, I mean, so how are we going to reduce? So let's talk about technology first. So I mean, the two panelists said before, bifacial modules are becoming mainstream worldwide nowadays. Since they provide a boost in generation at right now at this stage, it's a minimum increase in price, at least for P-type modules. So currently there are three main technologies. So it's P-PERC, N-PERC, and heterojunction. So the first one, the P-PERC, is the most common one. It's out of the three provides the smallest efficiency. And like as an average, of course, there will be modules that will go beyond that, but also they have the lowest out of the three, the lowest bifacial coefficient, because there's some aluminum in the backside still needed, and that gives you a bifacial coefficient between 70 to 80. But the good thing about this technology is that it has an amazing price. I mean, it's the best price of the three. Then we have the N-PERC, which is a medium point. So now it's in the middle of between those two in all aspects. And then you have the heterojunction, which is the highest efficiency, highest bifacial coefficient between 90 to 95, but also highest price range. So other ways in the industry is working, to reduce, increase the efficiency is by, for example, working with half cells, which you halve the current, and therefore you reduce power loss. So with regards to modules, as of today, we recommend that in order to minimize the LCOE, So the use of prepared modules, I think we think is the best option. So we're going to talk about structure. And here in structure, we have the two main systems, which is fixed tilt and single axis tracker. So fixed tilt is the best solution for rooftop systems. The bifacial gain over monofacial system, it could be up to 15%. And this is with very, very high albedos, and this is made quite technical. And also, the rooftops allows for good numbers in this respect, because it's easier to employ to use enhancing materials, albedo enhancing materials, which in the end it will generate more energy and reduce LCOE over monofacial. For ground mounted systems, single axis tracker and bifacial modules are a clear winner. That's and actually there's no much doubt about that. BTEC, as I mentioned before, which is Soltec's Bifacial Research Center, has performed a full year study where Soltec's own 2P tracker achieved a bifacial gain of 15.7% over high albedo conditions and 7.3 over low albedo. Also regarding configuration, so also Andrea mentioned before 1P versus 2P. There's another study done by BTEC, and they found that 2P outperformed 1P trackers under the same ground cover ratio and albedo by 2.1%. The main reasons for that is, as you can see in the pictures there on the right, is higher modules mean higher wind speeds, and then that's affecting the cooling capabilities and thermal losses. And then also the space between modules to avoid the torque tube shadows increase also the cooling effects. So in one way, you minimize or eliminate the shadow of the torque tube, but also increases the cooling effects. So if you check these pictures, you can see a thermal image of a 1P, where there's a big difference in temperature when you compare to the 2P, and it's basically for the reasons that I mentioned. Higher module position, that means higher winds, and better cooling effect because of the flow. That's in the end, that's you can get an increase in production of 2.1%. So the next part in the technology is inverters. So the traditional approach to inverter selection will recommend string inverters below 20, sometimes up to 40 megawatts, and central inverters beyond that. However, we are seeing how the market is evolving in this perception. And this is challenge. There has been challenge for lately. It's getting more common to see large projects on 100, 200, even 3 and even 400 megawatts with the string inverters. Like maybe months ago, nobody would expect. The main reasons for that are slightly higher generation with string inverters. But mainly the price reductions are eliminating the historical price gap between both technologies. And also very important is that increase in reliability and plug and play design of string technologies. Technology translates into lower O&M. At the same time, central inverters are releasing new concepts, of course. Research and development is non-stop in this industry, such as liquid refrigeration system, which claim to offer higher efficiency, increasing generation, and therefore reducing LCOE. Just an example, an extra 0.5% in efficiency is equivalent to up to 20% inverter capex. So, in this regards, and after seeing all this, we When selecting inverter technology for larger plants, it's recommended to analyze both technologies without any preconceived opinion that we might have from the past. So albedo, I'm not going to, I think I will go through this already because Andrea did a wonderful presentation regarding albedo. So we are going now, we're talking about pitch and the design. So bifacial systems need higher pitch or lower ground cover ratio than monofacial ones. So they extend the reflective area, allowing more light to reflect from the ground to the backside of the module, and also allows for more diffuse light to hit the backside. By having a larger pitch, the system also benefits from an increased tracking period. In other words, in the morning, backtracking finishes earlier, and in the afternoon starts later. That will also help improving generation. As an example, and this is also part of the biotech studies, increasing pitch from 9 meter to 12 meter might increase generation from 9.5 to 14.5, considering high albedo values too. And also, just more in the real world, for average albedo values, we have seen like a 1% increase in production for every extra meter in pitch. Although, of course, this is not linear. So once you get a larger pitch than 12 meters, that increase it goes a bit lower. So I understand that Italy land is an issue with in Italy because of cost and availability. But well, if in ideal world, a 13-meter pitch would be a really good option for bifacial. So now it's a lower, I mean, with a bifacial system also needs a lower DCAC ratio than monofacial. And that's because the backside power is not included in the module nominal power. So when you're buying a 400 or 500 or 450 megawatt, watt panel, it's not taking into account the backside power. So therefore, the bifacial modules generate more energy, of course, than the equivalent monofacial. And because of this, inverters receive more current than with monofacial, and then they clip more. For that reason, it's recommended to go to lower overbuild or DCAC ratio. So you can see in the graph here on the right, how depending on the albedo, so it's recommended one ratio or another. For example, with very, very high albedos, even a 1-to-1 is recommended. For low albedos, you could do between 115 to 125 maybe. And then for monofacial, I mean, probably say 113 is like the reference number. So I have just a couple of slides left. And this is regarding PV system. I mean, to maximize generation, it is important to use the right assumptions on PV system. One of the first decisions is to select the right long-term database for your site. There are many options in the market. However, the two most used ones are Meteonorm and SolarGIS. Depending on the specific region, there might be relevant difference in calculations of yield when using one or the other. And that has to be taken into account. Sometimes you find, difference of 1% and even 2%, depending on the geography. Another so that's something that has to be taken into account. I mean, because 1 or 2% in generation, it means a lot. It has a huge impact in the IR of the plant. So another key parameter to consider is the thermal model and thermal losses. UC and UV represent the a linear function of the system thermal losses in PV system. PVSys considers as a default the 29 and 0 for those values, meaning that the wind has no cooling effect whatsoever in a plant, which, I mean, everybody knows that that's not correct. That's how the system is designed, but this is not right, you know, because, with wind will have an impact for sure in cooling the plant and cooling the modules, and that will have an impact on thermal losses and therefore in generation. So depending on the tracker design and configuration, then the wind, I mean, it will flow easier or more difficult within the modules, cooling them, and will have a significant impact on generation, as I said. And that's important. That's very important because thermal losses are the largest losses on a PV system. So sometimes, I mean, depending on how you handle this and if you are using the right parameters, you could go from 8% maybe loss in thermal losses to maybe 4.5 or so. So it's very, very important. Also for rear shading, that's another parameter that has to be considered. So depending depending on the tracker, on the configuration, and the space, if there's a space to allow for the torque tube, that will affect the rear shadings. So that's important to consider the right values according to the module or the tracker that you are using. Again, very important to calculate the albedo value, as it was discussed in the previous presentation. That's fundamental. And also another aspect that sometimes is not taken into account is the positive inclination. So again, if you happen to have a project with a positive inclination, you could model that into PVSys, and you could get an extra 1 or 2% of production. And finally, regarding just the financing bifacial models, in reality, this is quite common to all markets. Project finance lenders are risk averse, and they would always prefer a proven technology than the latest state of the art. So that's important to take into account when choosing modules or inverters. So the lenders would like to know that there is a track record of the technology to avoid risks. Since the majority of deals are non-recourse project finance, off-takers bankability is also a key parameter, and as well as the PPA contract. But not only the PPA, but also the EPC contract and all major providers. That's relevant, and all the, I mean, it will be audited and analyzed by the lenders. And especially the resource analysis. So they will do a big analysis on that and a big audit because of the impact in the economics of the plant and the financial model. So they will look at the albedo calculations. They will look at the PVSys assumptions. So all these assumptions that we have been discussing before, they have to be, you have to prove, you have to justify it. Otherwise, the lender advisors will not take that into account, and they will reduce the generation. And roughly, that's that's everything on my side. Belén.
Thank you very much, Emilio. Great presentation. It was very comprehensive. Thank you very much to the three of you for shedding such light on bifacial. We have two questions open at the moment, but I'd like to start. Actually, Volodymyr kind of asked the question that I wanted to ask you, so I'm going to. He's asking, he says to Emilio, but I'm going to leave it open to all of you. What will be the most cost-effective technology for the 2021, 2022 years in bifacial modules, PPERC, NPERC, or HJT, which I don't know what they are, HJT. So what is your prediction? Because then I'm going to make that more general for the next question that is mine.
Okay, no, I can talk answer this one. We think that even in 2022 it will be PPERC, still the main product in the market. I mean, it will be followed by heterojection, but it all depends on evolution of prices. I mean, right now we are seeing again. I mean, this is not easy, but around 5 cents or so between PPERC and heterojection. So if this gap reduces, probably, I mean, heterojection will start getting the lead, but I don't see it for 2022.
So for 2022, NPERC is the question.
Sorry, PPERC.
PPERC, okay, yeah. PPERC. Would you guys agree on that side? Francesco, I don't know, I mean.
We produce PPERC, so totally agree.
Couldn't agree more. Aren't you betting elsewhere, I suppose? And Andrea?
Yeah, I guess I totally right with Emilio. So efficiency of the heterojection model looks stunning, but as Emilio just said, there is still a gap that I'm not seeing this new technology coming to large-scale PV project in a couple of years' time. So,
what about bifacial, guys? Do you see bifacial taking over, say, more than 50, very significant, so more than 50% of the market? By when, you know, like, do you think it's going to get to that sort of level? It certainly seems, but, you know, Emilio, what do you think? Is it going to be the main bet?
I have no doubt, absolutely zero doubt. I mean, what is the point of, I mean, not going to bifacial right now if the price differential is minimum, at least as I mentioned with PPERC. So even if you don't have the land available, I mean, and you don't capture the whole benefit of bifacial because of the, you know, lack of pits, you still have an extra, you know, and the price is getting lower and lower. The price gap between monofacial and bifacial. So I see it. No doubt, absolutely no doubt.
But like in what, 5 years, 10 years? I mean, how?
No way. No. I mean, I wouldn't right now in all our projects, I wouldn't consider monofacial. That's it.
So only bifacial going forward, then more than, for you it's 100%, but even overall, you'd say like more than 50% of anything that is being built?
Yeah, I would say that, yeah.
But you guys, do you have anything to add in there, or are you quite happy with that assessment?
No, I'm totally agree because, for example, last year and this year, we have monofacial as main and bifacial as option. For request of next year, we have bifacial, 100% the requests for the utility scale are bifacial, and just some ask for monofacial as option. So it's quite clear that bifacial will take, you know, the stage.
It's incredible how quickly these new sort of technology trends develop, right? It's a few months really, like they start like establishing themselves and become the main thing. Okay, so what question here to Puertes? Sorry, Andrea, go for it.
No, just to add that it's not, my view is that it's not a new technology, it's just a different configuration of the material. So it's already in some way, we can say, robust. And yeah, so price-wise, we are already here. We are already in the bifacial era, in my view. So all the main tender worldwide are proposed with bifacial, and the large-scale PV plants, very large scale, like in Australia. Almost all of them now are with bifacial model, and are already financed by lenders.
Yeah, let me add that also thanks to a company like us that has bring this to a very large scale production, the gap in terms of prices between monofacial and bifacial, it's nothing. I have to say, especially if you compare with all the advantage you can have on the field, you know, it's really we will use it a lot in the recent times.
I think, Andrea, you've made a good point that this is not new technology in the sense that it's not a new cell. It's not, I get that, but like, when was the first full project of bifacial? Because you have to redesign, think everything through differently, you know, take into consideration albedo. And what was the first plant finish? Like what, 2 years ago? I don't even think. It's a big, very fast change.
Actually, I think the first one was in Chile in 2015. And I
Stand
think,
corrected.
yeah, and I think Soltec did was actually the first tracker to specifically design the tracker for bifacial. It was La Silla, I believe it was called in Chile.
No, fair enough. If it's been 5 years, then it's something that is a lot quicker than I thought. Okay, here, to power this, what is the effect of the torque tube shadows 1V versus 2V configuration? Oh, we just lost Andre.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so with 1V, the torque tube is going to project a shadow. That's no way to avoid that. I mean, you can separate a bit more the tube and try to avoid in a way a bit the shadow, but the shadow is going to be there. With the 2P, it's I mean, because of the gap that at least the Soltec tracker has in between modules, that shadow doesn't exist. Actually, I mean, whoever is interested can download this white paper I was saying before, and that's an analysis, and you know the white paper recommends specific values for shadowing, which I mean it's very curious to see that there is almost no shadow.
Thank you very much, Emilio. I'm trying to see if we can recover Andrea because there's a question for it, but we'll see what we can manage. It's a question, another question here that says, competitors say that 1P row for testing, the temperature is in the wind shadow of the higher 2P rows. This is the first one, Anonymous says. Competitors say that the 1P row for testing the temperatures is in the wind shadow of the higher 2P rows. Can you share the layout on Soltec's Bitech site? I don't know. Maybe it was just like, I don't know what he refers to either. I don't know whether it's a very technical thing or whether it's just one word missing. Let's go to the next. Can we consider two landscape configuration? I don't know if I understand that one either. I'm sorry, and not my best at the moment. I'm just trying to recover Andrea here. What type of module cleaning do you propose during the O&M period? This is a very, very common question. You know, do you clean the rear of the cells? Do you not? So perhaps you can answer that.
Well, it depends on the market. There are some markets where, like, for example, in Brazil, technology is quite expensive. So it's and labor is not so much. So it's very much focused on labor. Other markets, like in Europe, it's more you use machines. You know, regarding the how often, it depends on the site also, you know, how the soiling is performing. And also one very question that many people ask is a difference between how often do you clean the front or the back side. We think that, I mean, again, depends on the site, but you don't need to clean the back side as often as the front side.
Thank you very much. And we covered Andrea, so we're gonna be asking the question. Okay, Andrea says, if we don't have time to do an on-site measurement, what kind of data we can use for an estimation in PVCs? Satellite long-term data with some variability from meteo provider as SolarGIS. So how can you manage that?
Yes, so normally, so first of all, our method, as I mentioned in my presentation, doesn't require many times, so can be done in 2-3 days, depending on the sites of the project. But obviously, if it's not possible to do the site measurement, we do normally use one of the famous, as also Emilio mentioned, so like Meteornom or SolarGIS would be fine, considering that the accuracy is a bit higher than a methodology like ours, where we have a match between satellite and site measurement.
And last, guys, the question is, what are the LCOE costs you expect for the future of bifacial PVs? It's a very good question. So are they going to go down? I imagine so, but how much, how much are we gaining by going bifacial? Do you guys want to do like a little bit, you just throw a figure in the air?
I don't know about numbers. It's definitely going down because prices are going down. That's how the market is performing. We don't know what's going to happen in a year, but for the next 12 months, I expect the prices to go down. So that will pull the LCOE down for sure.
Francesco.
Yeah, we saw also in my presentation that the prices are going down for sure. We are working as module manufacturer to, improve the efficiency of the modules and to reduce the cost. So I'm also seeing the prices are going down. On the specific number, it's difficult to say because, it changes a lot depending. So if you ask now, for example, we have a very, crazy market also in Italy. So it's difficult to say, but it changed, and it's also changed quite quickly, but going down for sure. That's the trend.
Cool. Andrea, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, for sure. Prices are going down, but just I wanted to highlight that there's a room for lowering the LCOE during the engineering phase, the pre-engineering phase. So as we've seen in our presentation, also from Emilio's side, it was honestly great. There are so many parameters that should be taken into consideration during the pre-planning or pre-engineering phases. And this is, I think, this is the key factor for the next period for developer in general.
Yeah, it sounds like the PV race isn't done. We thought for ages because the prices have come down so quickly, so fast. We thought, okay, so quickly, so steeply. We thought, okay, we're coming to an end where, but it doesn't sound that way. We're seeming to be able to find new ways of saving more money, of making them more efficient. So it's bifacial, sounds like, going forward. So thank you very much, all of the people in the audience, for being here today about talking about bifacials in Italy. And especially thank you for our experts for being here. Emilio, thank you very much. Francesco, thank you very much. And Andrea, thank you very much for sharing with us. And hopefully, I hope you guys, I see you at the next time. And I hope that you've learned a lot as much as I have. See you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.